So welcome to another Team CGC 9.8 video, and today is our pricing video. But before we get into that, I wanted to say a big thank you to the YouTube channel Just a Rican in his comics. About 4 or 5 days ago now, I was a part of his Coast to Coast show on his YouTube channel, where he shouts out a lot of other content creators in the comic world on YouTube. So wanted to say a huge thank you to Rican for doing that, and brought us in about 10 or 15 subscribers too in a really short time, and was able to meet a couple of great other content creators on the chat and everything. So yeah, I was so happy to be part of that, and really lucky that Rican shouted out the channel, so thanks for that. But getting right into some of the pricing information today, got a lot of cool issues that sold. Some good prices, some prices that maybe question that maybe an issue could be going up a little bit more, but we'll get into some of the details. All these prices are from eBay, and they're in US dollars. And yeah, eBay just makes it pretty easy to kind of do some quick research and get some quick prices. So yeah, we'll get right into it here. A newer book here, and these are all CGC 9.8 books as well. So a newer book that sold quite a few copies in the last week here is Young Avengers #1. Seems to be quite a popular book right now, certainly selling a lot of issues anyway. So kind of across the board as far as prices, which can give you an idea of why you want to make sure to make sure you're paying a good price for your comics. So we had one Young Avengers sell for $299.99. That's a CGC 9.8. There were two other Young Avengers #1s that sold for $249.99 in the CGC 9.8. And then there was another Young Avengers #1 in the CBCS 9.8 that sold for $200. So there was one for $300 in the CGC 9.8, one for $200 in the CBCS 9.8. So that 100 difference is quite a lot for like a new book. I mean, personally, any new book that's certainly made in the thousands or newer, I think you can afford to be pretty patient on those, because there tends to be quite a lot of copies. It depends what issue it is, but tends to be quite a lot of copies. And Young Avengers #1, being that there were 4 that just sold in the past 4 or 5 days here doing my searching. I'm sure a lot more will pop up. So for that book, I think $249, $250 is pretty much a fair price. Maybe you can get a really good deal closer to $200, but I think $300 probably a bit of an overpay for, again, a comic that was, I believe, was made in 2007. I believe. I could be wrong on that. I gotta double check, but I didn't have it written down. So another issue sold was X-Force #11. That's going to be your third Deadpool appearance. In the first actual Domino appearance, I believe. So X-Force 11, pretty decent cover. That one sold for $63.50 US. And if you're a Deadpool fan on a budget, that one could be one to look at for sure. X-Force #11 for $63.50, not too bad. An Amazing Spider-Man Annual #16, that's the origin and first appearance of the new Captain Marvel. Pretty popular book. That sold for $324.95. And I would say that's a pretty fair price, actually. I think every now and then you see a lot of buy it nows for that book, in that $400 to $500 or even over range. So yeah, $324.95 for first new Captain Marvel. That's Amazing Spider-Man Annual #16. So a pretty cool book that I actually didn't even know about until I was looking, and that's why I kind of like doing this exercise. Is you end up seeing some books that kind of catch your eye and you might have never saw before, and then maybe could be something that you'd be interested in buying somewhere down the line. This one's it for me. It's What If #49 in the CGC 9.8, and it's what if Silver Surfer had the Infinity Gauntlet. Really cool cover with Silver Surfer kind of putting on the Infinity Gauntlet. I hadn't seen this book until I did this research for this video. So that one went for $175. What If #49. And that really cool cover. And I think obviously the Infinity Gauntlet with Avengers Infinity War has been in pop culture so much in the last 5 years. Also, we got the first Infinity Gauntlet here, which is a book I have, and that also sold, and we'll get into that a little bit later. An Amazing Spider-Man 431. Let's see. Yeah, that sold for $175. Amazing Spider-Man 431. So that's that Cosmic Carnage book that I happened to purchase about 2 weeks ago. Amazing Spider-Man 431 went for $175, and my book was $150. So this one going for $175. I got mine for $150. That's Amazing Spider-Man 431. Last year when that Venom movie came out, I actually saw that go for quite a lot more. So yeah, $150 to $175 for that Cosmic Carnage issue, I think is a good buy. A Spawn #1 sold for $100 in the direct version. So I got a Spawn #1 CGC 9.8 in the direct version. There's so many of them out there. A book that I probably wouldn't recommend as an investment book. I would get the Spawn #1 newsstand version. But a normal Spawn #1 in the direct version went for $100. The newsstand versions go for about $350 to $400. And that's the one I would recommend for an investment book. That's the book that I'm really looking for because I want to buy it. A Batman Last Night on Earth. So that's the new series that just came out with Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. That in a CGC 9.8 went for $49.99. And there's actually one left on this auction, I noticed. So if you did want a Batman Last Night on Earth for $50, CGC 9.8, not a bad deal. I know it's a new book, but it's a really cool graphic novel and CGC 9.8, and that's not too bad, I think, for $50. So a decent deal here, I think, on a Batman 635. So that's first Jason Todd as Red Hood. This is an issue that I think has definitely come off in the last 2 years for sure. Batman 635 sold for $209.99. And I think a year or two ago you were seeing a lot of those go for over $300. Yeah, somehow it just got really hot, and obviously Red Hood, such a cool animated movie under the Red Hood, and a lot of kind of Red Hood cult fans, and that issue really hit hard when it got hot. But coming back down to earth, so I think Batman 635 actually could be a pretty good buy right now. At $209.99, if you can find one for $200, that wouldn't be too bad. Another really awesome investment grade book, Punisher #1 limited series. One sold for $400. I think that's a really good book to buy as an investment. Yeah, Punisher #1 limited series, even Wolverine #1 limited series. I think both of those, obviously Hulk 181 is out of most people's budget, but if you want a really cool, even, the first Punisher out of most people's budget. But if you wanted a really cool CGC 9.8, I think Punisher #1 limited series for $400, not a bad deal. Another Savage She-Hulk sold for $349.99. Savage She-Hulk #1, first appearance and origin of She-Hulk. Apparently, people were telling me that issue was pretty hot last year, where it was almost hitting $450 to $500. So that one's coming back down $350. What If #31, that's What If Wolverine Killed the Hulk. Really cool issue. That one sold for $199.99, so call it $200 for What If 31 CGC 9.8. That's a pretty good deal, I think. Wolverine and Hulk, so iconic. I'm not a really big fan of the cover. I feel like if it had a really cool cover, I probably would have bought it already, just being a Wolverine and Hulk kind of fan personally. So What If 31 sold for $200. An Amazing Spider-Man 363. So this one right here. This is what I purchased Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3 of Carnage, and from a near mint. Someone who had purchased them, he said, on the first day, and I actually ended up getting them CGC, and they all came back 9.8s. So that was Carnage Part 1, 2, and 3. So this is Part 3. A Part 3 sold for $55.02. And I think that's a really good deal for this book. Really cool cover. And generally you see them go to kind of from 50 to 80, I would say, US. So yeah, but $55.02 for this book I think is a really good deal. And if you're a Carnage fan, I'd totally recommend that for $55. And I love these covers, so I'm kind of speaking from a nostalgic point of view. I know there's so many of them, so maybe not the best investment books, but for $55 I think it's such a cool cover. Why not? Iron Man number 305 is a book that I've wanted in the past in the CGC 9.8. It has that really cool Hulk and Iron Man cover. So one of those sold for $145, and I think that's getting quite up there for that issue. I would imagine you could probably get it a little bit closer to about $100, maybe even a little bit less than $100 if it's kind of a fire sale auction. But yeah, I've actually kind of marked that one down for myself because that is a book. I just really love the cover. The cover is awesome. If you haven't seen it, Iron Man 305, a classic Hulk Iron Man cover. Yeah, I honestly want that one on my list. I don't have a lot of Iron Man comics, and yeah, I think I'm gonna keep an eye out for that and maybe try to grab one around $100 and maybe a little bit over. But one sold last week for $145. That's Iron Man 305. There was a really cool Immortal Hulk #1 first print with the Alex Ross cover, sold for $75.50. I think that's a pretty good deal considering how cool Immortal Hulk is, how popular it is, and just to get the first issue of such a popular series for $75.50. You know, maybe if you were really picky you could find it for a little bit cheaper, but I think, you know, maybe $10 cheaper, so why even try, personally. If you want an Immortal Hulk 1, it's about $75 right now in the CGC 9.8. Next issue, Silver Surfer number 44. So that's this one here. First appearance of the Infinity Gauntlet. I think a really collectible issue. I think it's an issue that it initially got really hot, I think, when Infinity War came out. It's cooled down now. And I think now is a good time to buy this issue because I think 10, 20 years, if you do have a long time horizon, a lot of these kids that are seeing these Avengers movies are gonna love the Infinity Gauntlet, and 10, 20 years down the road will probably have decent jobs and want this issue. So I think this is a really good one to get. And yeah, Silver Surfer number 44, it sold for $227.50. And I bought mine about a month ago, for maybe a little bit longer, for about $230. So yeah, they're basically about the same price. You're looking at about $230 for a Silver Surfer number 44, which I think is a really good deal. I think, you know, in 10, 20 years that could be $400, $500 issue, a real solid key issue. Especially just, like I said, how Infinity Gauntlet has been throughout our pop culture so much in the last 5 years. Another issue that sold, Batman 567. So that's the first Cassandra Cain Batgirl. And that's kind of one that I've been somewhat looking for. It's not one that I've really tried to hunt down, but if one kind of popped up and in Canada for a cheap price, I'd probably be interested in buying it. First Batgirl, Batman 567. One went for last week for $225. And I think that's a pretty decent deal because, you know, that Batman 5 first Batgirl and the Batman 635, the first Red Hood, I think those, you know, first Red Hood went for $209, first Batgirl went for $225. I think they're sort of in that same price range type of key issue. Yeah, personally, I'd probably prefer the first Cassandra Cain Batgirl. I think that's probably going to be more of an iconic first appearance. But you know what? I mean, if you're a Red Hood fan, then you can't really go wrong with Batman 635 right now because it's come off so much. But yeah, Batman 567, a lot of times you see this one in the buy it nows getting up there like ridiculously priced. You know, $400, $450 for a first Cassandra Cain Batgirl. But one sold for $225, I think that's a decent deal. And our last book is Batman The Killing Joke in a first print. One of those sold last week for $164.99. So $165 we'll call it. And yeah, so I think, you know, I did that video where, you know, I think you kind of got to be a bit careful buying The Killing Jokes getting into sort of October coming up here. That's when the Joker movie comes out. But right now, I think, you know, for one last week going for $164.99, I don't really think that's an inflated price at all. Just watch out for those buy it nows where people are trying to kind of get a noob to buy a Batman Killing Joke for, you know, maybe $250 or something like that. Don't look at those issues. Batman The Killing Joke, there's so many of them in the CGC 9.8 on the census, so there's always going to be a new one popping up at a fire sale auction. So one last week went for $164.99. I think that's a good kind of ballpark price range, a fair price for Batman The Killing Joke. Okay, so got all our pricing information. I will put all the issues in the description below with the price so you can look at the list. But yeah, honestly, I feel like these videos are becoming kind of one of my favorite videos, and it's just really important and a really good exercise to look at the prices. If it's once a week, then that's great. You can watch this video and kind of get a beat on the market. But I think even doing it more than once a week is probably better if you're really sort of buying a lot right now. But yeah, this I think is a really important thing to do when you're buying comics, because then, you know, you do this for a couple weeks, you kind of got an idea of all the issues you want and the price that they're supposed to be. So when you see someone trying to sort of hook a noob to get to sell an issue for $100 or $200 more than it's actually worth, you'll know that, and just be patient. There's always going to be, there's always a lot of issues of most of the comics that you would want. So if you're patient, you wait a month or two, another auction's going to pop up and you'll get a better deal. But yeah, such a good exercise to do, and to learn, all the prices, to be more educated on the prices will help you to basically never overpay for a comic book. Okay, so thanks so much for watching the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe and join the team here at Team CGC. And yeah, we're just knocking on about 150 subscribers, so being that just over a month of the channel, and at this early stage, every subscriber helps. So if you could subscribe to the channel, it'd be so much appreciated. But thank you very much for watching the video today. Thanks for all the support and your comments, and I will see you on the next video.